Today we're gonna visit a cotton field and paint a picture with watercolor. Hello precious people, I'm Jacqueline Parks and I just wanted to stop and show you this beautiful field of cotton, what we like to call the southern snow. Isn't it pretty? I love it. Cotton balls. And these aren't quite ready to pick, I don't think. They're so pretty. I was hoping I could get a little pick one, but if not, I will take some pictures and then I can paint them. It'll be prettier with the sun shining on them. Let's get started right away, and I'm already taped down and ready to sketch something. And I'm actually going by memory. So I have painted this once, but this one I didn't even look at the reference photo and just went ahead and started drawing it. Also, to let you know that this whole video is done in real time so that you can follow along and know exactly how long it takes to paint the painting. So here we are. It's already drawn for you. It's pretty simple. And the masking fluid I did not use. Some people like to use masking fluid. I do not. So I'll show you how you can get away with not using masking fluid. Also, these paintbrushes I use are amazing. One's a set from Michael's that was only like $6 for the whole set, which you think, oh, it can't be very good. But it is. I love it for this big mop kind of brush that I use. But as you watch me paint with it, you can see I can get really fine details with it as well. So it's a really excellent starter brush. And it's got different sizes brushes in the set. I put a link to purchasing this in the description. So you can go to the Michael's website and order it, or just go to any Michael's. They usually have them in stock. And right now what I'm doing is just kind of painting around those big fluffy white cotton bolls, and it's spelled B-O-L-L-S, I believe. Anyways, these are I'm just getting a really light paynes gray and doing just very simple outlines. I'm just letting the brush zigzag a little and touch here and there, push the water, push the color, and I'm leaving the background of the field a little bit more untouched, just a very, very light wash, if any. And just doing a horizon so you can see where that is, but in the horizon you won't see details, so that's not important to paint. But you can see here that I'm getting pretty good control with just the tip of the paintbrush. You don't always have to use the tiniest brush you have in order to paint with. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix some green. And this is just the first wash. I'll end up darkening it later in the video. If you're impatient like I am, sometimes waiting for your paint to dry so you can add another layer is a long wait. But for me, I just switch to a different part of the paper and start painting while I wait. Therefore, I don't have to be too impatient. I'm trying to get a good mix for the sky. There were a couple clouds that I was thinking I would paint. Again, be careful not to paint over your cotton bolls. But if you forget and you do, just go ahead and dab it out with your clean paintbrush. And that's what I love so much about watercolors. You can dab up that color. Can't really do that with acrylic. Now I'm just adding a little bit of this, we'll just call it dirty yellow because that's what it looks like. But I believe it's yellow ochre mixed with a little bit of Payne's gray. And if you stay tuned to the very end of this video, you can see some of the cotton fields being harvested and rolled up into cotton bales and taken off in trucks. It's actually a pretty cool thing to watch. And I'll have some little history lesson for you too at the end if you'd like to hear it about cotton in Alabama. All right, so my sky is looking pretty good. I'm adding this blue tinge to the shadow side of all the cotton balls. Bolls, whatever you call them. I'm not really good at pronouncing it. But this is going to be a very important stage of the painting where you want to get this right. And surprisingly, I did this without looking at the reference photo. But again, I already did a painting once, and so I'm going by memory. It's not like I am painting this from memory, from seeing it out in the field. I actually had a photo and did this, but I did this once already. What I really liked was the shadow side of each one of these was a bluish tinge. So that makes it really easy to give it that dimension and 3D effect. And there are some little shadows off into the distance, but as it gets further and further away, we just blur that out. Now I'm just giving a little bit of definition to the silos and the farm. And this cotton field is literally like 2 minutes from my house. It's really kind of cool when I take my stepson to school. We drive by it. Whenever I drive to coffee, I drive by it. And there's multiple fields actually with cotton, and they rotate their crops here in Alabama. So sometimes it's a peanut field, sometimes it's cotton, sometimes it's corn, sometimes it's sweet potatoes. And it's just really cool that we live in a place that's still surrounded by farmland, even though it's growing rapidly and there are subdivisions popping up everywhere. And here I'm just adding a little more detail, a little darker mix of the same colors that I have down. And I wanted to give that sunrise a little bit more glow. So I'm adding, I don't think that's lemon yellow. I'm not really sure if it's cad yellow. It might be. And a little bit of this kind of orangey yellow that's already on my paints. I got this paint set from Hobby Lobby a couple years ago, and it was very inexpensive, and it has 24 colors. But what I do is, as I've used up a color in the pan, I've replaced it with Winsor & Newton's more professional grade paints. So some of them are still the original ones because I haven't really used them up, but that would be that orange color, so I don't know what it's called. But the yellow ochre I've replaced, and I've also done the sap green. I've done Paynes gray and some other colors. And in the sky, what I'm doing right now is probably a mix of Paynes gray with ultramarine, I would say, or maybe cobalt blue. It's hard to say. Sometimes I just use all of the blues that I have. And I don't use a lot of paint. What I do is just dip my paintbrush in each one and just kind of collect a little bit from each one. And then mix it on my palette with some other colors. And you can see my palette's a mess, so who knows what the total mixture will be in the end. And that's why I don't really list my colors too much for you guys, because I want you to experiment and have fun doing stuff with different colors that you have on hand. So just get daring and try different things. You can use your purples. You can use, I actually make a lot of gray with red and green. So if you mix complementary colors, you can become, you can actually mix your own grays. So if you have yellow and purple, that will mix a different gray than your red and green, and then your orange and blue. So just have fun and play around and see what you can create. And now this is really cool. I love that these cotton stalks are such a bright red. And they're so pretty and stand out with the white. And so this field that I'm painting was not ready to harvest. It's definitely got too much green leaves still, and the stalks are not dried up. And when I did a little research on it, they have to wait until all of the vegetation is dried up and dead, and then they can go in and harvest. Bless you. There's my little doggy sneezing in the background. And I am switching to my really nice paintbrushes that my husband got me for Christmas last year. And these are the Silver Edition Black Velvet paintbrushes. And I think it's some kind of sable. I put a link in the description. I'm not real good with remembering details about products. I just know when I like them and I use them, and you probably ask me all kinds of questions and I'll be like, what? I don't know. I just bought it and I don't know. So this is, and again, I don't really know the sizes for my brushes, but again, you'll get really good if you just use what you have and hone your skills using what you have. So you don't have to run out and get the most expensive paintbrush. You don't have to go get the most expensive paints or the most expensive paper. All you need to do is start practicing and painting every day. So here I'm just using the very tip of the brush to try and get a little more definition around those cotton fluffs. And they are so cute. And I'm even defining some of the centers, because they do have that. It's really neat. They're kind of segmented in 4 sections, and has like the pod, when it opens up, still has like a little seed thing, I guess, in there, and it holds that onto the plant so they don't fly off. And back in, I don't know, before all these machines that were created, people would have to go pick these by hand. And so here in Alabama, there's a place called Old Alabama, I believe it's near Montgomery, that I've been to on a field trip with my kids, and they taught us all about the cotton gin. And that thing was not portable. It did not go into the field and pick cotton. What it did was separate the seeds from the cotton. So you still had to have humans going out into the field to pick. And what I found out was a lot of these plantations had everyone come out and start picking. So even kids were let out of school so they could go and pick cotton, because you had to do it pretty quick, I guess. If the rains came and ruined it, I don't know. But basically everyone went in there. And we would say probably it would take about 600 human man hours to pick a field, which is crazy in my opinion. But that's what they did, and it was a very lucrative business for the South, and it still is today for the United States. There's cotton manufacturers all over the place, and farmers, and there's people who just have the cotton gins that separate everything after they get the cotton bales, so it's kind of cool. And here, if you want to zoom in on the detail that I'm doing, you can see that I'm not even painting details. I'm just kind of touching here and there. I'm just letting God guide by hand and let, the paint go where it goes, and not trying to be too fussy or too controlling. Again, this is in real time, so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So I wish I could be like right there with you guys and just show you, as you're painting, what you should be focusing on doing or what would be most important to help improve your skills. But let me just reiterate that the most important thing to do is paint. So maybe just pause this video and go get your stuff, get your paints, get your water, get your paper, tape it down, and do a quick sketch. It doesn't have to be accurate, and just start. And that's what I love about the fact that my sister told me she wanted me to paint her something in watercolor, and this was in 2020. And I said, well, I don't paint in watercolor. Well, she said, you'll figure it out, which she knew I probably would be able to figure out something. So I went ahead and just got some paint, got some paper, got some brushes. Like I said, the Michaels one is only like $6 for a set, and just gave it a go and ended up really enjoying the process. And that's what I want you guys to do. Enjoy the process. So definitely just start practicing. Paint lines, paint circles, paint splatters, paint skies. I think that we should just do a whole series on skies, because look at my sky. It's so pretty. And what did I do? Barely anything, really. I painted a couple lines of blue, lifted up, painted some yellow, painted a little darker cloud with that Payne's gray and the blue, and added a little bit of orange and just some other stuff, and just let the water sit and do its thing. Of course, yours might not look like that the first go, but you keep trying, you keep practicing, and that's why I like using small. This thing is 3 inches by 5 inches, I think. It is a tiny painting. I like doing tiny paintings. Sometimes the big ones just overwhelm me because they're so large and you have to really paint a lot. So this I like because it's smaller, and if I mess up, I can not worry about having wasted any paper, really. When I do commissions, I'll have extra paper, so I end up, bless you, bless you, bless you. My dog is just over here sneezing his head off. So yeah, I save all my little scraps that I cut off. If I have a commission for an 8x10, I end up reducing the size of a large sheet that I buy at Hobby Lobby or Michaels. Michaels is actually starting to sell single sheets, but I still like Hobby Lobby. I think it has the best selection of the large sheets that you can get, and there's 300 pound, which is really good. So I'm doing a little bit more detail on them silos because they're just kind of way too pale out there, and I'm just really delicately adding a bit of that bluish Payne's gray. to them. And it's not super watered down, but it's not thick. And I've been trying to learn a little bit about consistency. So basically, if you want to learn about the different consistencies of paint, the best way to do it is to compare it to something that you know. So here in my house, I like to drink coffee, and I like to put cream in my coffee. So there is like a thickness to the cream, and that would be less water, more paint if you have a cream consistency. Now, if you like to drink tea, which I do on occasion, like to drink tea, that's a very clear, translucent liquid. It's definitely like I said, just kind of a clearish color. And that's what I would compare more water, less paint. So like a tea consistency is when you want it real watery. And then there's things in the middle. Reese, stop eating that paper. My dog is eating paper. That's what she likes to do. Paper's her favorite. Anyways, so this is probably somewhere between cream and tea, which there's like something called a milk consistency. So that's definitely more watery than cream, but it's not as translucent as tea. So I hope that's helpful. I'm still trying to learn terminology of some of this because I am self-taught in watercoloring. And now I'm just going back in with some more details and letting that horizon line pop by adding the darker green. And I mixed it with a little bit of red. So I had a green sap green on my palette, and I added some of the red. And it's probably cad red. I'm not sure what I refilled it with. But I put it in a little smidge of that into the green. And that gives it that kind of brownish gray color. And that just makes those tree lines pop. And around all the fields out here, there are tree lines, like huge tree lines that divide all the fields. So it's just really pretty here. And now this pod hadn't opened up, and I believe it's just, you can see all the veins on it, and the sun was shining through it that day. And you could really see just some beautiful details and colors. It had like purples and reds and oranges, and it was just beautiful, the one little pod. And so I'm trying to capture that. Of course, it's a really tiny painting, so it's going to be hard to add a lot of details to something that small. Again, I just kind of used the tip of my brush and drew a couple of lines, and I made sure that the paint was thicker than what was on the paper. You can't really paint details on top of wet paper, otherwise it's going to bleed out. So I had to make sure that that section was already kind of dry before I added the veins of that pod. Now I'm just adding a couple more colors here and there because your eye will fill it in. So you don't have to do all the details. I don't have to paint every stem. I don't have to paint every cotton ball. All I need to do is give a little definition here and there, and your eye will fill it in. And that's what's so great about painting and being an artist, is you can fill in, your mind fills in everything. And I am almost finished with this painting. I did add a little bit of yellow to each of the cotton bowls to highlight the sun on them. And I'm not sure if I already did that because I was not paying attention. I'm doing this voiceover and the household is waking up, so I'm going to have to hurry up and finish this before everybody needs my attention. But I'm just adding a couple more details here and there giving a little more definition, trying to make that horizon pop. And you can see if you zoom in that it just dab, dab, dab of a little bit of color here and there, and just let the water and the paint work for you. And let me see what else I need to tell you guys about. Just adding some more of this. Oh, the red. I think I'm going to do that on the barn. Who knows? Mixing some color. Let's see. I'm surprised. Just like you guys. Oh, okay. I'm making the trees a little darker. So basically, what I'm doing is painting in a darker value in there just to give some shadow and definition. And it's wet still, so it just kind of bleeds out a little. And now I am using my rigger just to add a little bit of, I think, shadow. Yep, just a little bit of shadow to the field in the background. You don't want to overdo that because then you'll ruin the effect. Because it's supposed to look like a snowy field anyways. That's why they call it Alabama snow. Because we really don't get snow here. It does get cold, but not always do we get snow. In fact, we just had a freeze the other day. And there you have it. The painting is all done. And I hope you enjoyed watching me paint it. Each of these cotton bells is worth $360 approximately. And I've read where each one can make about 200 pairs of jeans, which is kind of cool. Also, the paper that I'm painting on is 100% cotton, so I know cotton is used to make the paper that I painted on. So many different things that you can use cotton for. And there they are, going off to be sold. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a blessed day.